Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back. So, July 30th, CFML News, and today we've mixed it up again. So instead of having our normal guest, or host, I should say, Andrew, we got Brad Wood.
How's it going?
Pretty good. So,
see, when the cat was away, the mice were at play. We had the redneck and the redhead, but I'm not sure what we have now, a Kiwi and a Peewee, or do I have to work on that one?
Yeah, we have to do something that rhymes there for sure, but yep, we've got a pretty good amount of content for you guys here. Lots of things have been happening this week, and yeah, thanks for everyone joining us on YouTube or on the podcast. So let's get straight into it. So we got a little bit of news and stuff before we get into the conferences. So the first big thing really is a security alert that was announced July 25th. So you want to tell us a little more about that, Brad?
Yeah, so Adobe came out with a patch a little while ago now for a ColdFusion code execution exploit. And this was brought to you by the letter A. No, this was an exploit. The attack vector was via the JNBridge library instead of ColdFusion. And if any of you guys aren't familiar with that, that's basically what allows you to run Java code to connect to the .NET bridge, right? So you can, run from your Java application, .NET things. And so there was a vulnerability there where if your ports were exposed, someone could connect directly to that and basically execute arbitrary code. So Adobe came out with a patch a few weeks ago. The sort of urgency that I had been tweeting about this week was that I watched Twitter for the ColdFusion hashtag, and I've been tracking several different quote security researchers, which I never really know where they fall when it comes to gray hat or black hat and white hat. I think they're kind of gray hat sometimes as far as their intentions, but they've been basically developing exploits for this. So when Adobe patched this bug, and no one was exploiting it in the wild, but in the meantime, these so-called security researchers have been actually coming up with exploits to be able to hack into ColdFusion servers. So that's why it's imperative that you get these patches installed right away, because they're already working on that. The good news is, the silver lining is, if your servers are behind any kind of firewall that's only allowing port 80 and port 443 through, out of the box, you wouldn't be able to be hacked, since they do have to connect to a sort of non-standard port that JNBridge listens on. Now, that doesn't, rule out maybe an internal attack from inside of your network. That would be from behind your firewall. But that is kind of a little bit of a silver lining on this, is that it's not something that just every ColdFusion out there, every ColdFusion server would be susceptible to, unless they didn't have any firewall in front of them. But the fact that hackers have been actively working and releasing exploits, kind of, plug and play exploits that people can drop in and use to try to hack into ColdFusion servers, definitely kind of ups the ante on how important it is that everybody gets these patches installed.
Yeah.
ASAP.
And like you said, and I saw a tweet there, it says, ColdFusion folks, hackers waste no time developing exploits for this stuff, so you should waste no time installing the patches. And I thought that was pretty appropriate there. Because, yeah, I mean...
It's true. Yeah, I've given some of these security researchers a little bit of a hard time on Twitter, and they always complain because they're like, I'm finding exploits. I'm like, well, I don't know what your intentions are, because you're basically handing hackers the tools they need to hack ColdFusion servers. While I appreciate security research as much as I love security, it's like, if your life's work is saying, here, this is how you hack a ColdFusion server, I'm giving you the tools, like, always kind of have to question your motives. Are you really trying to make the web safer, or are you literally enabling hackers? But hackers are being enabled, so install your updates, basically.
Yep, get onto that. And then now, obviously we can Moundbox and everything. We've already patched this stuff through, right?
Yeah, so the latest updates of Adobe ColdFusion are released on ForgeBox, or if you're using CommandBox, then of course the update process is much simpler for you. You just dial in your server.json, the new version you want. Or if you've been starting your server with just, start CF Engine equals Adobe at 2018, then you would automatically get the latest patch just simply by restarting your server and download the latest patch. So
that's pretty cool.
Yep, it's easy if you're on command box to stay up to date.
Yep, exactly. So just wanted to make sure that we're up to date there. I know that you and John work really hard to get those security updates out as soon as the Adobe releases them. So thank you, John, if you're listening, for your hard work there too. So it looks like Pete Freitag's been busy again. He's released another one of his CFML news issues. So maybe you guys don't like listening to the podcast, so you can read some news as well. So yeah, Pete has a cool little newsletter. It's on, I think it's TinyLetter. tinyletter.com/CFML. Yep. And he has 32 issues now. So basically once a month roughly he releases a new new release. You can sign up for the email registration and they'll email it to you whenever he releases them. But it's got a lot of great content in there. It's pretty funny because if you guys have been watching the last few weeks, you've seen a lot more Ben Adele showing up on our blogs of the week. And he's got a whole section on the newsletter just for Ben because he's been pretty busy.
And he's been going crazy.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other good content in there too. A lot of it we've shown on the podcast here, so you guys would have got up to date on it. There's also a few things that we didn't cover because obviously we can't cover everything here. And so I definitely recommend you go check that out. The link is in the show notes. But if you go search for Pete Freitag and Foundio on Twitter, you'll see that a lot of people are thanking him for it right now. So that's really cool to see community members doing their part.
The link in the show notes, will that be a link people can use to subscribe to his newsletter?
Yeah, basically that'll take him straight to that release, and then at the bottom I believe there's a register link right there, so you should be able to just click on
I'm subscribed to it. You just stick in your email address and you get it in your inbox automatically. So Pete does a good job of aggregating all the stuff that's going on out there. Yep.
And so then another release has come out this week. So Ortus has been working hard on CBRM. So CBRM is our set of ORM tools that we have for ColdBox and builds on top of Hibernate, on top of Lucy and ColdFusion engines. And version 2 is just being released, and we got a brand new Git book for that too. But do you know a little bit about what's gone into behind the scenes there? What did they have done? Because I think it was pretty much a full rewrite.
I didn't really work on any of it myself. I think Luis did most of that. But there's been some changes in the underlying Hibernate libraries over the years. ColdFusion 2018 is on Hibernate 5.0. They're kind of behind the scene jars. Lucy 4, I think, is still on Hibernate 3, I believe, 3.5. So there's kind of a bit of a disparity that's grown between the different engines and versions. And Hibernate internally has a lot of internal methods that have been updated over the years. And so I think this update of CBRM ensures compatibility across all those, which is very important because libraries like CBRM have to be able to work on Adobe ColdFusion on a Lucy server and work the same way. And so I think there's also been introduction of CB Streams. So if you guys aren't familiar with CB Streams, it's a super cool library that kind of came out of Luis and I attending a Java conference and learning about Java Streams, which is kind of a part of the JDK ever since Java 8. And it's kind of a new way to work with data structures. Instead of having just an array or a struct, which is kind of a finite size, a stream is more of a, for lack of a better word, a stream of data where you don't necessarily know how many items might come through and you can process them asynchronously in parallel. There's a lot of performance benefits, and it's all based on functional programming using closures that you pass in to do your manipulation of data. So CB Streams has already been introduced into TestBox. TestBox 3, I think, introduced that behind the scenes to help streamline processing. So CBRM now has also introduced CB Stream support, which is pretty exciting. That adds a lot of new functionality in the back end, a lot of kind of functional approach to it. So
it looks like he's starting a Momentifier as well. The new Momentifier module that Luis has built, he's put that in there too. So it looks like a pretty good update. So for those who want to check it out before you get the show notes, the coldbox-orm.ortusbooks.com will take you to the brand new one for that, and you can see the release notes. And there is a blog post coming soon. Luis is still writing that up, so you should see that in the Ortus blog in a couple of days too. So.
Absolutely. And a quick note, all of our docs are on a subdomain of ortusbooks.com. we use Gitbook for that. So generally speaking, you can take a name of a box product like testbox.ortusbooks.com, commandbox.ortusbooks.com. You can kind of guess where most of the docs are. So
And
the CBRM one doesn't quite follow that pattern as coldbox-orm.ortusbooks, but it's still all part of that Gitbook that we use.
Yep, and just so you know, if you just go to ortusbooks.com, we have a really nice landing page now with most of our books on there. I don't know if the CBRM one is there because it is a new book.
Is the landing page up?
Yeah, the landing page is up, Brad. We've been waiting for this one for a while.
I saw the preview of it, but I hadn't actually seen it go live.
Yep, it is listed there. So there's a lot of modules, a lot of books.
Oh, yeah. So that's just ortusbooks.com. If you leave off the subdomain,
yep,
it gives you a nice overview of basically everything that we have with links. Yeah, this is super cool.
Yep, that's way more stuff than I thought we had. So if we don't know how many books we got, how are you supposed to know?
We have a lot of libraries. And the ortusbooks.com actually has links to API docs, as well as sometimes some of these sites have, or some of these projects have kind of external sites of their own. So we have all that aggregated together in ortusbooks.com. So that's some of the feedback we got from people sometimes is they would say, I'm looking for the docs for library XYZ, but I don't have, memorized where everything lives. So this kind of gives you a nice, easy way to get just a comprehensive list of all the Ortus products and then find the docs for that product. So.
Yeah, especially when your Google Ninja searching is not up to par. So
your Google Foo doesn't always work yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, next on our list, we've already mentioned Ben Adele once today, but again, we want to mention him because he was excited about a possible ColdFusion podcast being released. And then Brad got on Twitter and told him Ortus just released one, actually 2 podcasts, and he didn't know.
Right.
So obviously you guys are listening, so you know about this podcast. And we have another edition called the Soapbox Podcast, which we have more interview style. And we will be doing more of those with the conferences coming up. We're going to try and get some interviews with speakers. And I have a few more that are coming out. Now I'm back from vacation. I'm going to get back to releasing those on a more regular schedule. I apologize, but yeah.
And we have quite a few views and subscribers now. Isn't that right, Gavin?
Yep. Just on the videos on YouTube, we've had like over 500 views on the video episode so far. We've got at least 100 new subscribers, so more people are subscribing so they get notified when we release these. And on the actual podcast side, we've had well over 1,000 podcast downloads. I think we're almost up to 1,500 already. And, that's not too bad for, just a few episodes out. And, it's not a big podcast. So we're pretty happy with that starting out. And but what we need you guys to do is actually help us. Because obviously you guys have networks and you have friends, hopefully, out there. And maybe they don't know about the podcast. I
believe you have friends. I have faith in you guys.
Yeah. So, but what we want you to do is we want you to go on Twitter and tweet that you're watching or listening to this podcast. And if you use the hashtag Modernize or Die and CFML News and, throw in the CFML or the ColdFusion hashtag, most people search on that. Let people know that you've been listening and watching, and tell them why. If there's something you like about it, maybe you just like 2 idiots talking on the on YouTube every week or every other week. Let them know. I mean, hopefully we're actually giving you guys something useful. There's some important news here and stuff, and and again, if there's something we're missing, let us know. Reach out, tweet to Brad or myself or Ortus. Use the CFML and the ColdFusion hashtag, and we watch those religiously. But yeah, so if you guys can get out there and tweet that, would really appreciate it, so help us get the word out and maybe we can make this thing better. So that's the idea, right? Community helping community to get better. So yeah.
Right.
Okay. So next on our list, conference time. So CF Summit, last I looked, the early bird was still there. So I'm not sure if they extended it away to July 31st. So if you guys haven't got your tickets, jump on it real quick. Again, the conference pass is $99 for 2 days, includes a breakfast and lunches. So that's a pretty good deal just for the food. And there's some great speakers there as well. And then they announced all the speakers last week, I think. So we mentioned on the podcast, there's 31 speakers announced so far. And there's a good list there too. So there's Luis, Brad, Eric, and myself from Ortus, and we've got 5 speakers from Adobe and over 15 community speakers too. So that's a good group.
Pretty
There's
cool.
Charlie Earhart's there, David Tattersall from Fusion Reactor. We got Brian Klass, Pete Freitag, Matt Gifford. So a lot of names you would have heard before. A lot of these are spoken at Into the Box, so they're good speakers. So definitely worth checking out.
And for once, I'm not going to be presented on Command Box. It seemed like that was the only topic they would always accept. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love to talk about Command Box. But my talk this year at CF Summit is actually not even really about ColdFusion; it's about security. So I'm kind of excited to step outside of my normal box, pun intended, and talk about password hashing.
Cool.
Still a topic dear to my heart.
Yeah, well, I've got a new topic too. So a lot of times I'll be doing API testing at CF Summit. A lot of people like the APIs, but now I'm actually going to do some testing stuff. So I'm going to talk about Start integrated testing. So the biggest and easiest bang for your buck for testing. So I'm going to show people how to test even their legacy code with sort of some integration tests. So we can get it hooked up with TestBox, maybe even run it in CI if you have it. And just make sure that, simple things like that you'd normally test yourself by clicking around, you can do. So if you visit a page, make sure certain text is on the page. If you type something into the search box, certain things pop up. If you click the button on the form, it takes you to the right page. Little things like that you test manually, we can try and show you how to use tests to do that. So
so they didn't accept your topic titled How to Start a Podcast with Two Idiots? They didn't go for that one?
No, but Adobe is actually willing to have us broadcast there as long as we don't make a fool of ourselves beforehand. So we're looking at CF Summit actually doing a live podcast. So you might have the 3 amigos and a few more. So that's the plan right now. We'll give you more details. But if you guys are coming to CF Summit, you might be able to join in with a live podcast. So pretty cool, I think. So
looking forward to that.
Yep, and CF Summit, obviously, it's a great conference, but there's more than just the conference. We also have training. So they have the specialist program, which we've been talking about for a while. So you can get a certificate about saying that you're a ColdFusion specialist. But also they have a couple of other trainings that they've announced as well. So there's a hands-on ColdFusion security workshop with Pete Freitag from Foundio. He's the one behind Hack My CF, CF Docs, and all those things. So really good.
Script Me, Fixinator, all the good stuff.
Yep. So he's got a lot of cool stuff, and I'm hoping he actually shows Fixinator on that because Fixinator is very cool. He announced that at Into the Box this year. So if you haven't heard about that, the coolest thing
about Fixinator is that it runs on AWS Lambda, which I think is super sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And actually, episode 4 of the Soapbox podcast, I interview Pete and we talk about Fixinator. So go check that one out. And the other pre-conference workshop, other than that is Charlie Earhart is doing going from 0 to 60 with Docker and ColdFusion images. So I'm curious.
So it's not 0 to hero, it's 0 to 60.
Yeah, 0 to 60.
What number is hero? I want to know how 60 and hero compare.
I don't know. It's probably like 5 because it looks like an S, right? No, that's anyway. But yeah, I'd like to see that. I know ColdFusion, Adobe have been working on their images a lot, and obviously we have our command box images, which we love, and it has all the goodness that we need. But I'd be kind of curious to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. So maybe we'll check that workshop out, Brad. I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I've already been to the security one.
Stealth in the back.
Yeah, we'll just wear some little maybe Fusion Reactor hats so they don't know who we are.
We'll wear a CF Wheels shirt. No one will recognize us. They'll never know we're there.
Yep. So that's before the conference. So one day before the conference, there's a day of workshops. But after the conference, we have our training. So I'm going to be leading a training on ColdBox from 0 to hero. And me and Eric are going to be leading that one. And then you are going to be with Luis.
What? I am?
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's right.
So ColdBox from hero to superhero, the API edition. So
what number is superhero, man?
Infinity.
It's like 5. Is it over 9,000?
Yeah, so that's basically building on top. So if you're not really familiar with ColdBox or you're just new, ColdBox 0 to hero is great. You'll get all the basics. You'll learn a lot about modules and how to use them, so you can leverage ForgeBox. And then the superhero one really goes beyond that. So you guys are going to look at probably making your own modules, tying into APIs and maybe JWT.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of questions from people asking, what's the minimum amount of ColdBox experience for the 0 to hero, or for both of them? The hero to superhero, you're definitely going to want to come in with a solid understanding of the cold box, because we're going to jump into the advanced stuff for people. But the zero to hero, you're going to want to have command box installed and have some basic familiarity with what cold box is. But it really does aim to start as low as possible to get people up off the ground and into the basic parts of the framework. So I would recommend, if you're thinking, well, I don't know anything about cold box, will I be able to do a zero to hero? Play with a couple of the sample laps and read around the conventions, check out the docs, get command box installed. You should be ready to go for the training.
Yeah, and we have 2 days for these workshops too. So this is the Thursday and the Friday. So it's not a 1-day rush workshop. We have time. There's going to be
2 days really gives you enough time to kind of dig in.
Yep.
Dig in deep.
And then there's 2 instructors, and we probably even have some helpers. So you're going to have 2 people helping. We're doing it inside the executive hospitality suite at the area tower suites. So it's got room for like 10 attendees. So don't wait too long to get your tickets for that, because we don't want to miss out. But it's really, really comfortable. It's small, so we can really get in there and, make sure you get that one-on-one attention you need to really get the most out of it.
Espresso machine going all day long.
Espresso machine. Maybe we'll have some music. It's really nice too. Like the hospitality suites is a step up from the normal suites we get, Brad, so I'm even more excited. But we do have a special podcast special. So since you guys are listening, if you use the discount code podcast10, you'll see in the top of the image up there, podcast10 will give you 10% off because you listen to the podcast. So if you sign up on Eventbrite, you can get 10% off the boot camp. And that podcast 10 is actually good for 10% off some of our other trainings and stuff as well. So if you're on Eventbrite, I think that'll work. On the next training we're going to discuss. The next one is Luis in India. So the 2-day boot camp he's running in India is the Cold Box Zero to Hero. So pretty much what me and Eric will be covering. Yeah, in Bangalore, India. And yeah, the discount code works there too. So, of course, he's gallivanting around India while you guys are off in the middle of nowhere in Europe, right?
I'm not sure exactly how that overlaps, but yeah, I think
it's 16th
and parts of the world.
Yeah, I think his is the 16th and 17th, and so your training is on the 15th and 16th, and the conference for CF Camp is the 17th and 18th. So he split the difference.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes. So if you know anybody in the Bangalore area, let them know about this training. It's going to be the first one that we've been able to offer in that part of the world. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah. And then CF Camp, again, that one's in Munich, and the 17th and 18th of October is the conference, and we have training beforehand. But the really good news about that is the tickets are available now. The sessions have been announced, and the speakers have been announced. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the full lineup is out, so that's pretty exciting.
Yep, and we have 3 Ortus speakers for CF Camp. So yourself will be joined by Jorge Reyes and Eric Peterson. So we got 3 speakers there from Ortus, and we have a lot of great community speakers. I think there's about another 18 or so that have written announced. And
Kai even said on Twitter, I think I got the quote here. He said, "I can honestly say this is the best and most diverse program CF Camp has ever had." So it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great names that I know, like Matt Gifford's in there, and Mark Drew, and Will DeBruin, who was at Into the Box, and Charlie Earhart again, and obviously Kai Koenig. But we also got a whole bunch of new ones that I haven't seen. So quite a few new names. So it's good to see new speakers coming out and talking about different things. And you get a slightly different crowd over there at the CF Camp. So I'm looking forward to maybe, fingers crossed, I can wing that next year. I really want to make it. So, but
it's a good conference.
Yep. And then
always have great food.
Yeah. The food's always good for sure, these type of things. But the Ortus training we'll be doing 2 days before that. So I say we, I mean you, not me. But Brad, you and Eric will be doing training. So have you guys decided on the topics?
Yeah, I think we've kind of got that nailed down. So Eric's going to be doing Rest Easy at Night with Testbox BDD. So talking about Testbox. And I'll be doing the Hero to Superhero API Rest Edition. So got kind of two different sessions, and those do happen simultaneously. So it's one or the other that you choose from. So if you want to get on the test box train with Eric, we got that. If you want to get on the kind of advanced cold box, building APIs with modularity and REST, then I'll be in charge of that one. So hopefully, I think we're getting those signups up really soon. So I want to make sure you get signed up for those right away so you can adjust your airfare as necessary to attend.
So make sure you guys have those 2 dates in front of the conference blocked out for the training here. So
yeah, and Mishi tells me the orange juice machine is going to be back. That was my only request. I had this thing last year with like this hopper of oranges. You just push a button and it takes them and slices them and squeezes the orange juice into a cup. It made the whole trip worth it. Just a glass of orange juice every day.
I love orange juice. I love juice in general. Well, so I'm
maybe
I'm
the
excited.
machine will be there
next
year when you finally come.
Maybe. Okay, well, that covers our conference and our news. So next we're going to talk about the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So we got a fair few here.
I do see a quick question here from Scott, but I don't understand what it means. What are the talk they are doing at CF Camp? Are you talking about the talk that the Ortus people are doing?
Probably. So what are you presenting at CF Camp?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what everybody else got accepted. I think if I look hard enough, I could probably find it. My talk at CF Camp will actually be a really fun talk I did a few years ago at the last CF Objective, which is on design patterns. Again, a talk that actually doesn't really have much to do with ColdFusion at all. It's a very language agnostic talk, but it talks about what design patterns are, what they mean for you, gives a bunch of examples, kind of tangible stuff that you can kind of keep in the back of your mind to build on top of. So that's my talk will be design patterns.
Eric is doing the automated database migrations with CF Migrations.
Oh, that's a good talk. CF Migrations, yeah.
Yep.
In fact, Kai just tweeted the other day about that and said, how have I lived? And see if I can find what Kai said on Twitter. He said, geez, how have I lived without CF Migrations, from Eric Peterson so far?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It'll be definitely interesting. I like working with that. You can use it from the command line with command blocks or through your CI with command blocks, but you can also use it from inside your code, which is kind of neat too. So when you're running tests, you can actually run a set of migrations to load up your test database, and then when you're done, you can spin it down. So it's pretty cool. And then Jorge is going to be talking about the practical lessons he learned from 250 plus legacy CFML projects. And so obviously he's talking about our team, Ortus team, has been converting a lot of legacy projects lately, and we've done over 250. One customer was 200 or so. So yeah, we've done plenty of those projects, and there are a lot of lessons learned and a lot of things they've figured out what we should do, what we shouldn't do. So if you go to that, you'll learn the lessons the easy way and don't learn the hard way like we did. So
that should be good. You and I should go. We might learn something.
Yeah. But yeah, Jorge is our project manager, and he helps a lot with our whole projects, and we would not survive without them. So again, it's a really good session. So that's what they're doing, Scott. Thanks for the question. So right then we're getting to the blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So our main man, Ben, is at it again. So he does a sanity checking, closure, invocation, overhead, and performance in Lucy. So it basically just went through and did a whole bunch of tests on performance for different ways to do different things. So that's kind of a cool blog post there.
Yeah, that post, I actually just skimmed through it this morning or wherever it came out. Yeah, he has a cool little example of using like a Redis client, and he has sort of like just a standard way of getting a connection, setting something in the cache, and closing the connection. And he has an alternative way that uses a closure that kind of encapsulates some of those details, he has some really cool examples. Ben's learned a lot about closures and functional programming from his JavaScript work. And so he basically just compares the two methods to make sure there's no performance overhead. And of course, there was none. In fact, the closure method was actually a little bit faster in some cases. So that was a pretty cool little test.
Cool. And then Fusion Reactor has a Adobe ColdFusion sale. They got a blog post about that. So they're doing a discounted sale right now through, I think, the end of August. So if you guys are looking for some Adobe ColdFusion licenses anytime soon, check out Fusion Reactor. They're a reseller for Adobe, so they can get you the software legitimate licenses at good pricing. So if you need some licenses, go check that out. And then Pete was tweeting a little bit, and I thought this was kind of interesting. So someone was complaining about some documentation in another language, and he said that for CFML you can just do cfdocs.org/trim if you want the trim function. And he's like, he wishes every doc site did that. And then he's like, come to think of it, he actually made a tool for the Java docs. So if you go to javadocs.org/string, it'll give you the string docs. And if you go to cssdocs.org/fontweight, it'll give you the CSS docs basically for that. So he has redirects.
Are those sites that Pete runs?
Yeah, I think they're basically the last two sites aren't actually docs sites. They're just like redirect sites. So if you type in the name of the function, he figured out how to redirect them to the right place. So they'll actually take you to the Java documentation site, but you just type in /string and it'll take you to the right place in the other site. So pretty cool. He did that for CSS and Java docs. So I thought it was just a cool little tweet, and the show notes has a link to it. But yeah, so if you guys need help on CSS, you can go to cssdocs.org/fontweight if you want to see how to do some things bold.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
The CSS docs basically redirects me to the appropriate page on w3.org. Cool. So there's a big long URL and it scrolls down to the anchor tag. It's a nice little shortcut.
Yep. So I thought it was pretty neat. And then Ben, again, have you seen this one about linked and ordered structs in Lucy?
I don't know if I read that one.
Yeah, so I mean, he was just talking about how linked structs or ordered structs in Lucy works, and I think they've had ordered structs for quite a while now, right? So
yeah, the feature's been there for quite some time. It used to be you had to declare them with struct new, and you would pass in a parameter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still the case. You can also do a nice struct literal syntax, which Lucy added when Adobe. Lucy had a ticket in arguing about how to do it for years, never came to a conclusion. When Adobe 2018 came out, Adobe introduced this way. So Lucy said, okay, well, now the decision's been made. But you can declare an ordered struct by using square brackets instead of curly braces. So it looks like an array literal, but it's actually key : value, comma, key : value. And that's still a struct. It's just an ordered struct. That's a really nice.
That's a nice syntax
trick. Yeah, to use those literals.
Cool.
Yeah. I love using that.
And so talking of podcasts, obviously we're on one now, but McKellar has his own podcast.
Is that breaking the fourth wall if we talk about podcasts?
A little bit. So on the CFML Live podcast, they interviewed Alicia from Adobe, and they're talking a little more about the specialist certification. So I know a few people are asked us more information about the specialist program, and I don't have a lot more than we've already discussed here, but she has a whole podcast discussing that, and so you can find out more about that workshop. So the show notes are there, but if you go to CFML Live podcast, again, Michaela interviews a lot of great people as well. So more content there if you're looking for more CFML podcasts. Ben, there's another podcast. Don't know if you know.
Yep. Never been to Dell. Right there. Understanding struct key casing using serialized JSON in Lucy 5.3.
Yep. I think he's just doing the Lucy 5.3 on the end, so he knows which version he actually tested with when he refers back. But yeah, I mean, obviously struct key.
Yeah, a lot of the features Ben's been covering have been Lucy features for quite some time. But
exactly.
Yeah, I think he's just noting that he's testing on those specific versions. So.
Yep. And so struct key casing has been there for a while, but it's really useful, especially working with JavaScript. You need to make sure that the key casing is right. So that's another good one.
Yep.
And then another old CFMLer is getting back into more CFML stuff. Matt Gifford released another wrapper library.
Who are you calling old?
Well, he's been around a while in the ColdFusion world, okay?
Yeah, I just saw a tweet for this today. A CFML wrapper to interact with the IP API to fetch geolocation data for an IP address. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I might play with that one myself.
I need to harass him a little bit. I don't see a box.json in this repo, which means I don't think he's put it on ForgeBox yet.
No, maybe not, but I just saw it as a new repo, so...
Yep. Yeah, brand new, only 2 commits, so let's just put it in here.
Yep.
I'm curious if this. Okay, so it does. It accepts an access key. All right, I had created a library several years ago. I'm not even sure if it still works. That did the same thing, but you had to sign up for an account and get an access key. That's pretty typical though, because otherwise people will abuse the IP lookups if they don't tie it to an access key to be able to do rate limiting and stuff.
Yeah, and then like a lot of the Google stuff, I mean, I know they don't do IP, but they do a lot of geolocation stuff. I mean, even Google was free before, and they're charging now for a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if anybody left that open without a key. So, but yeah, another cool little wrapper. You know, all these little tools just add to your toolbox, make your job easier. And then Brian has released his 16th blog post on the using AWS step functions in CFML. 16. Nice. So this is the final one in this series. And so this is wrapping up the transcribe, translate, and speak workflow. So it's pretty cool. I actually got the chance to interview Brian for the Soapbox edition. So that's probably, I think that's the next one coming out soon. So we'll be releasing that podcast. You can hear more about how Brian works with AWS and why they use that with ColdFusion and some of the design decisions there. But that blog series is really amazing. I really need to go look at that because the step functions just make Lambdas even better. So Lambdas are pretty cool by themselves, but this whole workflow, you can basically set up a series of steps, and it's pretty neat the way it works, especially with Pete's tool. So we can actually run the ColdFusion in the Lambdas. I'm really excited to see how that ties together. So we might be able to do some pretty fun things.
Uh-oh. Ben Nadell just tweeted and said his ears are burning, and rightly so.
Yeah, it's all good, Ben. We love you. A lot of the people that I work with, you know, they grew up on your blog posts, and I know I've read many and many blog posts over the years, and you've helped me solve a lot of things. So we're glad to see you blogging more about ColdFusion, and I still follow your JavaScript stuff too, so it's really good. But and yeah, here this is an older blog post that Ben tweeted about from CF Simplicity, but just someone else just ran into this issue the other day, so I thought I'd rehash it. So in Lucy 5, you can actually get to environment variables via the server scope. So they made it a nice, easy
Super
spot.
handy.
It's really cool. The only problem is that Adobe did it differently, right? So they've done the same thing, just they put it in a different place.
I haven't looked how they did it, though. If they did it differently, I would be disappointed and not surprised, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's kind of handy.
Lucy, I know specifically you can get not only environment variables, which come from your operating system, or more specifically, the encompassing process in which you're running inside of, but you can also get Java system properties as well directly inside the server scope. Super handy for cloud deployments. Now, frameworks like ColdBox already have helpers that kind of do that for you, and they work on ColdFusion as well. It's good to know that Lucy has that out of the box.
Yeah,
very cloud friendly.
Yep, and that's an older blog post too, so that's pretty cool. And then TerraTech had a blog post about time and number formats. I know last week we talked about I think a blog post from James about dates and times and weird issues in Adobe 2018, and so this one has a different way to look at formatting numbers. So if you guys are dealing with numbers and time formats and need a little help, this is a pretty good little blog post. So, but Twitter is busy.
Pete popped up in the comments and said that he thinks the syntax is the same for Lucy and Adobe. So I have to give that a quick test and see if it is the same.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the same. That would definitely be good for frameworks to be able to depend on that.
Yeah, I trust Pete, and he does the CF Docs site, and I'm sure that he's up to speed on all that. But again, thanks for everybody commenting on the live dashboard as well. So if you guys listen live on YouTube with us every week, you guys can participate in the chat there. So it's good to see.
You can heckle us from the comment section.
Yeah,
Peanut gallery.
Exactly. Yep. Now another thing on Twitter, there's actually a profile for GetSeeMyJobs. So we thought we'd spotlight a couple of the jobs on here too. I know that there are a lot of ColdFusion jobs that pop up on Twitter and other places too. And if you guys are looking to hire somebody or looking for stuff like that, let us know and we can try and spotlight them on here as well. We thought there'd be another section maybe to add to the site here, to the podcast. So there was a couple listed.
So the first one here is a ColdFusion developer in Falls Church, Virginia, United States, for Epic Corporation. So ColdFusion admin, troubleshooting, config deployment, trouble tickets, ColdFusion development 9 version 10 or higher. Interesting. There you go.
Cool.
Looks like there's some more details there in the description. Microsoft SQL Server, on call. So
cool. And so,
federal government contract on that one. Yep.
Yep. But yeah, something just to note too is this GetCFML Jobs is actually a website that you can go and post jobs to. So not only is just tweet stuff out, there's actually a free listing for jobs. So if you guys are looking for more or whatnot, currently it's listing 23 companies worth of jobs here. So it looks like it's a little older. It still mentions it runs on Raylo. So I'm sure that the about page just needs some updating. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. It actually aggregates feeds from different places. So Ben Adele has a job board, so it's going to try and tie into that, but it also ties into Elance and Indeed and jobs.cfdeveloper.net, which is by Ricardo Parente, and also Odis, which is freelance, which I think they changed their name, and Simply Hired. So it tries to aggregate all that. So, so if you guys are looking for a job, I would definitely go check that out. But again, it tweets stuff out as well, and we'll try and bring you a summary of the best ones as well. So, yeah, so it looks like we got a couple. So
we have a second one here is a temp ColdFusion developer in North Carolina State University. So that's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Looks like troubleshoot existing ColdFusion, add code and modules, edit jQuery, HTML, CSS. So got a lot of descriptions in here as well as requirements. So
cool.
There you go. If you know anybody in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, pass that on to them.
Yep. So, yeah. So, again, I know a lot of people say there's not much work for ColdFusion developers, but there are jobs out there if you know where to look for them. And, yeah, let's say if you guys are looking for a developer, let us know, and we'll put it on the podcast as well. Okay, so I think that wraps it up. That's enough. We can't cover everybody's blog posts. So, next we'll look at ForgeBox Module of the Week. So this is one I actually use myself a lot, and we've already mentioned them a couple of times today, JSON Web Tokens. So this is the JWT module by Andrew Dixon. So have you used this one before, Brad?
Yeah, I've played around with it. Basically, you kind of just drop it into ColdBox, and it gives you, you run box install JWT. And so it's just a ColdBox module that gives you all the helper functions you need for encoding and decoding JSON into the web token. So basically that lets you store, data in a cookie, such that your API can be stateless and not have to worry about a session scope, that might not exist on all the servers. It has to be replicated. When a user comes into your API, instead of just having like an access token and you have to go hit the database and find their user and load their details, they can have a highly encrypted cookie that comes back and you can get that information out of there. So it's a pretty handy library, especially if you're doing any kind of stateless APIs.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're going to be dealing with that in your workshop in CF Summit and probably CF Camp. So that'll be one you'll use there. But yeah, I like it, and we're using it. We're tying it into Content Box for the new release of Content Box we're working on. We're using it in a lot of customers too. So we're using that as well as some blacklisting and whitelisting techniques as well to basically check caches for invalidation. So, but it's a pretty cool little thing. Pretty simple out of the box, but it does a lot of work behind the scenes to give you all the power you need. So, pretty neat. And that's had over 1,500 installs, so it's a pretty good little module. It's up to version 5 already, so pretty cool. And then our VS Code hints, tips, and tricks of the week. We have Live Share. So have you used the Live Share on VS Code yet, Brad? I know you're a sort of a slow convert over from Builder.
I'll be honest, I've never actually used the Live Share. I'm aware of it. I've seen it, and I'm starting to use VS Code more. But I haven't actually gotten a chance to use it yet, so we'll have to talk about this. 10 million downloads can't be wrong, though.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's basically like Google Docs, but for your code. And so, you can see where the other person's cursor is. I can actually click, if I wanted to follow your cursor around, I could click Brad. And then everywhere you click and change file, I can actually follow you around, so I can just watch you. So it's kind of good for the screen sharing, but you can also both type in the same place. So if I'm the host, you're actually working on my machine. So if you start typing in the file, it's actually changing on my side. And so now they've added some stuff in there for chat, and they've done audio integrations as well. So it's getting a pretty good little setup there for some, pair programming. And
that pretty much works for any language, right? It's just a generic VS Code feature.
Yep. And the cool thing is you can actually tie into debugging sessions, and actually with the terminal that you have, you can share the terminal, and they can even, nice. I think it even hooks up the tunneling, so you can do the local web app. So you can actually hit your browser on your side, and it tunnels through to my machine to run the code. So it's a pretty cool little live share, and it takes care of a lot of the headaches, and they're improving it all the time, but it's come a long way. I used it in the alpha and the beta, and it was pretty neat. And now that they've released it, I use it a lot more. We use it with some of our clients that are, they know their specialty. They don't know, ColdBox as well. So a lot of times they'll bring in the code they need over to it, and I'll help them manipulate it and get it working. So it's a really good, learning experience, and, really good for that. So if you guys haven't used it, Live Share is the name of it. It's for VS Code, obviously. And the show notes is going to have the links there too. So pretty neat. You should try it, Brad. We should check it out.
Yeah, need to play with it. Sounds good. So that brings us to our Patreon supporters. I think we're almost done here.
Yep. Thanks everybody for supporting us, and the list is up to date. So we got quite a few Patreon supporters here, and we did
some new names in here too.
Yep, a couple new names. And again, we see these guys around the community. We see them following us in the chat room. A few of them are in the chat room right now, waiting for us, talking to us. So they're just good community members, and we appreciate that. We do have some bigger packages for enterprise customers if you're willing to support that. And so on our support page, there's different ways to support us. But these, again, just for the individuals. But if you go to ortussolutions.com and click on the About Us, under there's a sponsors page, and that gives you all the information, shows the current supporters and how you can become a supporter too. But we want to thank everybody here. And again, the new, I think Jordan Clark, Matthew Clemente, and Lee are the newest supporters. But we thank everybody here. So thank you, everybody, for your support. And thanks, everybody, for listening and watching, for joining us today. So next week, you don't know who's going to show up. You may have me and Brad, me and Andrew, maybe Andrew and Brad. Maybe I'll go back on vacation.
Maybe a sock puppet. No one knows.
So, but again, if you guys have any news you want to bring out, let us know. Please go on tweet that you're watching or listening to this podcast. We really want you guys to jump out there and help us spread the word, get it out there, and make this podcast a success. So, thanks very much. Anything you want to say, Brad, before we sign off?
Thanks for noticing.
Go patch your servers.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Go patch your servers before you get hacked.
Cool.
Right. See you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.die.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.